Next, a financial investment that sounded a lot more exciting than most of the ones you'll typically come across. A scheme offering a lot more glamour and showbiz with the opportunity to put your cash into the production of a new movie. Not just any old movie, but one with lots of big-name stars set to take part. So, what's wrong with this picture? Well, the investor who wrote to us about it is starting to wonder if it's more than just the film's plot that's a little far-fetched. Because as far as she's concerned, it's been not so much a case of lights, camera, action, as seemingly no action whatsoever. A visit to the flicks is as close as most of us get to Hollywood. But for property developer Sherry Bennett, the allure of the movies was so appealing that she wanted to be part of it. She had spotted a project which would give her not a starring role, but certainly a supporting one, in an upcoming British film alongside some very big names like Sir Michael Caine, Ray Winston and Vinnie Jones.
It would have been exciting not just to be an extra on set. I mean, that wasn't a selling part for me. It was more about the returns I was going to get.
Although Sherry was set to have a brief appearance on screen, she would have a much more important role to play behind the scenes as one of the people actually funding the film. It was an unusual investment, to be sure, but compared to the other things she could have done with her savings, the movie business looked much more interesting.
It sounded like a really good investment, but I actually enjoy films, especially films like, Braveheart and all those sort of films. So I knew that the returns could be really good, and it was quite an exciting project to be a part of, because obviously you're there for some of the filming, you get to go to the premiere, and then I suppose, that was what attracted me.
The film was called Henry5, and its unusual premise transposes elements of Shakespeare's Henry5 into a science fiction story set around the apocalypse.
For me, it was along those lines of like a Gladiator, Braveheart sort of film, two of my favourite films. I mean, how could it not be a hit? So that was why I was getting a little bit excited. You know, if a film such as that did go public, then I'm sure it would be a box office smash, as they say.
Sherry's foray into the movie business began in June 2013, when after hearing about the opportunity to invest, she bought £5,000 worth of shares in the film from a company called Alternative Solutions, who also trade in things like wine and gold. Now, she was promised a potential 25% return on her investment, plus a share of the profits.
I checked out Alternative Solutions, and I'd also spoke to people that had previously invested with them. They're more bigger for wine, so the client that I spoke to actually knew of them through wine investment and said, yep, they're a reliable company, they trade, they seem okay.
Sherry also checked out the production company that would actually be making the film, Warlord Productions. And again, she was very happy with what she found. Meanwhile, Warlord Productions and the film's distributor announced that the first tranche of funding was secured. Pre-production would start in just a few weeks, and they were set to officially reveal the details of the film at the Cannes Film Festival. So with an all-star cast, a rip-roaring plot and a £10 million budget, it was time to sit back and let the action begin. Or not. Sherry thought the cameras would start to roll over the next few months. But instead of getting news of the walk-on part all investors had been promised, she was told that her investment was now being handled by a related company called Spice Factory, and they had some worrying news.
Spice Factory contacted me at the beginning of this year saying that Ray Winston is no longer a big enough actor to perform in the film, and that they're now seeking a guy called Robert Pattinson from The Twilight. Not heard of him, don't watch The Twilight.
Sherry was also told that Vinnie Jones would no longer be starring in the film, and there was no longer mention of Michael Caine at all.
It's now all about Robert Pattinson, which, I mean, every time he sort of mentioned the man's name, it was making me feel even more sick than the first time he said it, because as soon as I Googled this guy, I thought, you know, him alone, he's probably going to want about 20 million to star in this film. From what I'd read in the contract, there was about a 10 mil budget, so you don't need to be, you know, great with maths to work it out.
Sherry's suspicions prompted her to do some more research online, and she discovered a newspaper report from 6 months earlier that made some very worrying accusations.
I read an article concerning the film. It was from the Mirror, and the actors' agents had never heard of such a film. They'd never been contacted regarding this film. It was nothing known to them. So for me, at that point, it was like 100% I knew it wasn't as it had been sold.
Worried about what she was reading and what that meant for her investment, Sherry called the Spice Factory straight away.
They assured me that it was total rubbish, and they was 100% sure this film was going to go to production. They was reassuring me that, you know, they'd seen this article, and at present they was trying to take the Mirror to court to try and have this article removed from the... And it was at that point that I knew, you know, I knew that it was a bad move investing in this film.
Sherry asked the Spice Factory to provide details of when filming was due to start and how much funding they'd secured so far, but no such information was sent. That's when Sherry came to us. But it's not been easy to pin down how much about Henry5 is fact and how much is complete fiction. But one thing we have established for sure is that just like Ray Winston, Vinnie Jones and all those other big names, the actor Robert Pattinson was never confirmed to star in the movie. Now, Sherry's no stranger to investment. She's been taking calculated gambles on property for years. But putting money into movies can often be extremely risky. Even Hollywood companies make big losses. So how sensible is it for someone outside the industry to try and get a piece of the feature film action?
Overall, the film industry is really not for beginners. It's not for outsiders. It's a difficult industry to understand. And I think investors would be really wise to stay away. It does look attractive. It seems as if it's very glitzy. But the amount of things that can go wrong on film productions, on film projects, and the amount of things that can go wrong when a film is released to the public are so numerous that for any individual, you're at high risk. It's quite possible for a producer to have a wish list of stars, you know, big names that might seem attractive, when in fact they may have just had a casual conversation with someone's agent and not really geared into the industry and the way it works.
We contacted the various companies involved in Henry5. Alternative Solutions, who sold Sherry the initial investment, told us that after that it had no further involvement in the film. We also approached Warlord Productions and Spice Factory, who in a joint response confirmed their complete intention to produce the film, even giving a date when filming would apparently begin, although this has now passed. They said that Robert Pattinson was approached to star in the movie, but he passed. And they also insisted that despite reports to the contrary, actors including Michael Caine, Ray Winston and Vinnie Jones were all linked to the film, although they didn't make it clear whether they had actually been formally approached. They went on to say there are a number of individuals who invest in films and many people have made substantial returns. And while they said they have no record of Sherry contacting them for updates on the film's progress, they apologise if that was the case, but maintain that she has no reason to complain about anything other than a failure to deal with an inquiry. But even so, they did offer to refund Sherry her investment, an offer she has now taken up. The man whose original play supposedly inspired Henry5 once wrote, "All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players." But Sherry doesn't plan to play any more part in the movie business, and she certainly won't be going once more onto the breach, dear friends, with this kind of investment.
No way. Just be wary of any nice salespeople that call you up with a great pitch telling you can make extraordinary amounts of money. I mean, just be very wary.